The flagship dominions will hung above Earth like an executioner's blade. 40 kilometers of dark alloy and weapon emplacements, designed to project terror across 1,000 star systems. Admiral Vex stood on the observation deck, his 6 limbs folded in the posture of absolute authority, watching the blue-green marble rotate beneath him. It was so small, so fragile, so utterly beneath his notice. And yet, Command had insisted he handle this personally. Species designation human, his tactical officer recited. Class primitive, technology level non-threatening, population 8 billion, planetary defense negligible, estimated submission timeline 3 standard cycles. Vex's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Standard demand transmission. The broadcast went out across every frequency. The same message the Dominion had delivered to 417 species before this one. Same words, same tone, same expectation of trembling capitulation. You are hereby informed that your species has been designated for incorporation into the Galactic Dominion. All military forces will stand down. All governments will dissolve. Your leaders will present themselves for processing within 1 planetary rotation. Resistance will result in total orbital sterilization. Compliance will result in. The transmission cut off. Vex's primary eye swiveled toward his communications officer. Explanation. Sir, they're responding. On visual. The main screen flickered. Vex had seen this moment 100 times. The terror in alien eyes, the desperate pleading, the resignation. He'd grown to appreciate it, to savor it. What he saw instead made his secondary eyes flutter in confusion. A human female stood before the camera. Her posture was relaxed, not the rigid fear of a species about to be crushed, but the casual ease of someone who had just heard an excellent joke. Behind her, a dozen other humans were visible, and every single one of them was laughing. Not nervous laughter, not hysterical laughter, genuine, open-mouthed, shoulder-shaking amusement. I'm sorry, the woman said, wiping tears from her eyes. I'm really sorry, it's just, she dissolved into laughter again. Did you actually say processing, like we're going to be processed? Vex felt something he rarely experienced, confusion. You find your extinction amusing. Extinction. The woman's laughter subsided, replaced by something more unsettling, curiosity. Is that what you think this is? You will comply, or you will be. Or you'll sterilize us. Yes, I heard you the first time. She stepped closer to the camera. Let me ask you something. How many species have you conquered? 417. And how many of them laughed? Vex's mandibles clicked again, but this time the sound was less satisfied. None. Right, because you've never met a species like us. The woman's smile faded, and for a moment, Vex saw something beneath the surface, something ancient and patient and absolutely unafraid. My name is Commander Helena Vance. I represent the United Earth Coalition, and before you start shooting, I'd like to invite you to dinner. Dinner? To discuss terms, your terms, my terms, whatever terms we can agree on. She gestured at the room behind her. We have excellent coffee and a museum you really need to see. You believe you're in a position to negotiate. I believe, Vance said, that you're making a very common mistake. You think because we haven't left our solar system, we haven't been preparing for you. Vex's primary eye narrowed, preparing. For the moment when someone like you showed up. She leaned closer to the camera. We've been waiting, Admiral. We've been watching the sky for a very long time, and every single person on this planet has a contingency plan for alien invasion. Your contingency plans are irrelevant. They are, Vance smiled again, but the fact that we have them tells you something important about us. What does it tell me? That we're not afraid of you. She turned away from the camera, not even a little bit, and that should terrify you. The transmission ended. Vex stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then he turned to his tactical officer. Target the largest population center. Demonstrate our capability. Sir, which one? Vex paused. He'd never had to specify before. Every other species had one primary population center, one central government, one point of failure. Which one is their capital? The tactical officer's display flickered. Sir, they have 247 major population centers, and according to their historical records, they have over 200 sovereign governments. Vex's limbs tightened. Explain. The humans are not unified. They've never been unified. They maintain multiple political structures, multiple military forces, multiple economic systems. They've been fighting each other since before they developed agriculture. That's impossible. No species survives internal conflict at that scale. Sir, the tactical officer's voice carried a note of doubt. They appear to have survived quite effectively. Vex looked back at the blue-green world below. For the first time in his command career, he felt something he didn't have a protocol for. Uncertainty. Prepare orbital bombardment, he ordered. We'll demonstrate our seriousness. Target selection. Vex's primary eye swept across the globe, finding a landmass of islands and coastlines. That one. Sir, that's one of their smaller continents. Population approximately 70 million. 70 million will be sufficient. It will send a message. Understood. Vex watched the bombardment platforms align. He expected to see fear on the human screens, a desperate plea for mercy, something that would restore his understanding of the universe. Instead, he received a single line of text. We'll send you the bill. And then the human transmission channels went silent. The orbital bombardment began at 14:00 Earth Standard Time. 78 kinetic impactors, each the size of a small building, were launched from the Dominion's lower weapons arrays. They streaked through the atmosphere with the sound of judgment. In 47 seconds, they would reduce the continent of Japan to molten slag. 47 seconds came and went. The impactors detonated in midair, precisely 100 meters above their targets. The flash was blinding. The shockwave was brutal, but the ground itself remained untouched. Vex stared at his tactical display. What happened? Sir, the impactors were destroyed by an array of ground-based energy weapons that, according to our initial scans, have existed. Show me. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a network of silos and emplacements scattered across the targeted continent. They'd been hidden, buried beneath civilian infrastructure, camouflaged as farms and factories and entertainment complexes. They buried weapons under their own cities. Sir, they appear to have buried weapons under every single city. Every major population center is protected by. The tactical officer paused. Sir, this is impossible. What is? The humans have approximately 8 billion inhabitants. We're detecting approximately 8 billion personal energy signatures. That's their population count. What's your point? Sir, there are also approximately 8 billion additional signatures, weapons signatures. Every human appears to be armed. Vex's mandibles went slack. Every human. Every human above the age of 18, and many below. Sir, they've turned their entire species into a militia. There are no civilians, there's no infrastructure to capture. There's only. The tactical officer struggled for the word. Resistance. The Dominions had never encountered anything like this. They'd faced species that fought back, species that rallied, species that died with honor, but never a species that turned every aspect of their civilization into a defensive structure. Vex opened a communication channel to the human commander. You've been preparing for us. We've been preparing for everyone, Vance replied. That's what we do. We prepare, we plan, we practice. You see, Admiral, humans have this problem. We're really good at imagining worst-case scenarios, and we're even better at preparing for them. This is not preparation, this is paranoia. No, Vance shook her head. This is realism. You don't survive on Earth without learning that the universe doesn't care about you. We've been through extinction events, ice ages, plagues, wars, and every time we survived by being prepared for the worst. Vex was quiet for a long moment. You believe your survival is inevitable. We believe our survival is earned. Vance leaned forward. You're trying to scare us, Admiral, but we've been scaring ourselves for 200,000 years. You can't show us anything we haven't already imagined. Then you'll force us to demonstrate. You'll do what you always do. You'll attack. You'll kill some of us. And then you'll realize that you've just made us angry. Vex cut the transmission. He turned to his advisors. How do we pacify a species that won't break? We cannot pacify them, his cultural attaché said. We can only destroy them. Destroy them how? They have weapons everywhere. They have no centralized government, no single point of failure. Every time we kill one, we make a dozen more determined to fight. The attaché's mandibles clicked. Sir, I've been studying their psychology. They have a concept they call David and Goliath. It's from their ancient mythology, a small warrior defeating a giant. They're obsessed with it. So we're the giant. Sir, we are the largest fleet in the galaxy. We have more ships, more weapons, more soldiers than any species has ever faced. And we are the giant. The attaché paused. They're the small warrior. And they believe they can defeat us. They believe they can survive us. And for humans, that's the same thing. The Dominion fleet deployed in standard battle formation. 900 ships, arranged in concentric spheres around the Dominion's will, each vessel positioned to support the others in a flawless web of mutual defense. It was a formation that had never failed. It was a formation that had crushed 1,000 armadas. It was a formation that the humans had studied for 3 years. The first wave of human ships emerged from the lunar defense stations, 200 vessels, impossibly small, impossibly fast, moving in patterns that defied Dominion tactical analysis. They didn't hold formation. They didn't follow doctrine. They moved like a swarm of angry insects, each ship operating independently, each pilot making decisions based on instinct rather than orders. They're not following any known battle protocol, the tactical officer reported. They're improvising. Improvising? Vex couldn't believe it. No species improvises in battle. There's no coordination, no structure. They're just attacking. The human ships swept through the outer sphere of Dominion vessels, not trying to engage the heavy cruisers but striking at the supply ships and logistics vessels that formed the fleet's backbone. They moved too fast for the Dominion's targeting systems to lock on. They changed direction too often for the Dominion's predictive algorithms to track. One of Vex's commanders opened a channel. Sir, they're laughing. We're hearing laughter on every frequency. Show me. The screen displayed the cockpit of a human fighter. The pilot was young, barely an adult by Dominion standards, with wild hair and a grin that didn't belong on a battlefield. He was laughing as he wove through Dominion fire. You see that? The pilot shouted to someone off-screen. You see those idiots? They don't even have manual targeting. They're relying on computers. Another voice from off-screen. Shot the big one. It's got a sensor blind spot under the main gun. Got it moving. The human fighter banked hard, diving under a Dominion cruiser's main cannon and firing a series of projectiles into its underbelly. The cruiser's shields, designed for head-on engagements, failed to deflect the attack. The ship detonated in a flash of silent fire. 87 confirmed kills, the tactical officer reported. They've destroyed 87 of our vessels. In how long? 11 standard cycles. Vex's primary eye widened. 11 cycles. Sir, they're not trying to win the battle. They're trying to delay us. They're buying time. For what? The tactical officer's display flickered. "Sir, our ground forces are reporting something. They're requesting immediate extraction." "Ground forces? We haven't deployed ground forces." "Sir, they deployed themselves. The ground assault was initiated approximately 4 cycles ago by soldiers who believed the orbital bombardment would soften planetary defenses." Vex turned sharply. "What soldiers? I didn't authorize any ground assault." "Sir, the soldiers are from client species. They acted without orders. They believed the humans would surrender quickly." Vex stared at his tactical officer in horror. His own soldiers had mutinied. They'd seen an opportunity to prove themselves, to gain glory, to show the humans the power of the Dominion, and they'd thrown themselves into a meat grinder. "Get me a visual," Vex ordered. "I want to see what's happening on the surface." The visual feed from the surface was chaos. Dominion soldiers from a dozen different client species were being slaughtered in urban combat that had no parallel in galactic history. The humans had turned their cities into fortresses. Every building was a bunker. Every street was a kill zone. Every civilian was a soldier. Vex watched as a squad of Thrax warriors, 8-foot-tall killing machines with natural armor and weapons built into their limbs, advanced down a street in what had been a residential neighborhood. They moved in perfect formation, covering each other, doing everything right. They never saw the humans until it was too late. The booby traps came first, explosives hidden in vehicles, in mailboxes, in the pavement itself. The Thrax warriors survived them, but their formation was broken. Then the humans struck. They came from above, from below, from behind. They used weapons that were primitive by Dominion standards but devastating in close quarters. They used fire, which the Thrax had never encountered as a weapon. They used sound, which the Thrax's sensitive hearing couldn't handle. And they used their minds. The Thrax were bred for obedience. They followed orders without question. They fought in formation because that was what they'd been taught. They expected their enemies to do the same. The humans had no formation, no orders, no expected behavior. They were chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely brutal. "The Thrax squad is gone," the tactical officer reported. 27 warriors, eliminated in 90 seconds. "Show me the others. Show me the other client species." The screen flickered through battlefields across the planet. Everywhere the same pattern emerged. Dominion soldiers fighting by the book. Humans fighting by instinct. Dominion soldiers following orders. Humans following their own internal logic. And always that sound. That terrible, incomprehensible sound. Laughter. "Sir, the humans are recording our soldiers. They're broadcasting the footage across the planet. The client species are seeing their own soldiers killed." "Cut the transmissions." "We can't, sir. They're using military frequencies, civilian frequencies, every frequency we can't jam. They want everyone to see." Vex watched the footage. Humans, ordinary humans, were killing Dominion soldiers with improvised weapons, with their hands, with anything they could find. And they were laughing while they did it. Laughing and recording and broadcasting. "Sir," the tactical officer said, "I don't understand. Why are they so cheerful?" Vex was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he understood. "Because they've been preparing for this their entire lives. Every war they've fought, every atrocity they've committed against each other, every dark moment in their history, it was all practice." Vex's limbs trembled. "They've been practicing for us." "Sir, we thought we were bringing them war. We brought them something else." Vex turned away from the screen. "We brought them something they've been waiting for, a chance to prove that all their darkness, all their violence, all their brutality, it wasn't for nothing. It was training." The tactical officer stared at Vex. Training for what? For the moment when they would meet something worse than themselves. Vex's voice was barely a whisper. "And we've just proven to them that they are not the worst thing in the universe." The war had been ongoing for 7 cycles. 7 cycles of watching his fleet bleed. 7 cycles of watching his soldiers die. 7 cycles of watching the humans grow more confident, more coordinated, more terrifying with every passing engagement. Vex sat alone in his quarters, reviewing the tactical data. He'd seen it 100 times. He'd memorized every number, every pattern, every anomaly, but he still couldn't accept what it meant. The humans weren't superior in technology. They weren't superior in numbers. They weren't superior in physical capability. They were superior in one thing and one thing only. They were superior in adaptation. Every time the Dominion tried something new, the humans responded with something newer. Every time the Dominion developed a counter-strategy, the humans had already abandoned the strategy being countered. They didn't fight like a species. They fought like a swarm of individuals, each one making independent decisions, each one learning from the decisions of the others. Cultural attaché, Vex called. Report. The attaché entered, his mandibles trembling. Sir, I've completed the psychological analysis. And the humans don't think like us. They don't think like any species we've encountered. Their brains evolved to handle chaos. Chaos? Sir, their homeworld is a death trap. Natural disasters, extreme climate variations, predators, plagues, everything about their environment is designed to kill them. They evolved to respond to constant threats by developing multiple solutions simultaneously. Vex's primary eye narrowed. Explain. The human brain is wired to consider multiple possibilities at once. They don't follow linear thought patterns like we do. They're fractal thinkers. Every problem creates a cascade of potential solutions, and their brains evaluate all of them simultaneously. That's impossible. No species could function that way. Sir, it's not just possible. It's the only way they could have survived their own environment. The attaché's voice was strained. They've been using that adaptability to dominate their world, and now they're using it to dominate ours. Vex turned back to the tactical data. They're not dominating, they're surviving. Sir, the 2 words have the same meaning to humans. Survival is victory. Victory is survival. They don't differentiate. The comm channel buzzed. Sir, the humans are hailing us. Vex's mandibles tightened. Put them through. Helena Vance appeared on the screen. She looked tired but triumphant. Behind her, the chaos of a war room was visible, humans coordinating, fighting, laughing. Admiral, she said, we need to talk. About what? About your species, about the Dominion, about why you're really here. Vex stared at her. We're here to conquer. That's what the Dominion does. We conquer species, we incorporate them, we expand our empire. No, Vance shook her head. That's what you tell yourselves. That's what you tell the species you conquer, but that's not why you're here. And you know why we're here. I know you're dying. Vance's voice was flat. I know your population is declining. I know your homeworld is failing. I know the Dominion is a desperate attempt to find a solution to a problem you can't solve. Vex was silent. You're not conquerors, Vance continued. You're refugees. You're a species that's running out of time, and you've been conquering other species because you don't know what else to do. Your analysis is incomplete. Am I wrong? Vex looked at his hands, at the 6 limbs that had commanded 1,000 victories, at the species that had conquered 100 worlds, at the empire that was falling apart around him. No, he said softly, you're not wrong. The human delegation arrived on the Dominions, in a shuttle that looked like it had been built from spare parts. Vex watched them disembark with a mixture of dread and curiosity. These were the creatures that had humiliated his fleet. These were the beings who had laughed at his power. And they were carrying coffee. Admiral, Helena Vance said as she approached, I believe you owe me a conversation. Vex's mandibles clicked. You've already broken my fleet. You've already humiliated my soldiers. What more do you want? To help you. The words were so unexpected that Vex's primary eye widened. Help us. You've killed thousands of my people. And you've killed thousands of mine. But that doesn't change the fact that we need to find a better way. Vex stared at her. Why would you help us? Vance set the coffee on the table. Because we've been where you are. We've been desperate. We've been afraid. We've done terrible things because we didn't see any other choice. And we know what it feels like to realize that you can't save yourself. You're comparing our civilization to your primitive world. I'm comparing our desperation to yours. Vance's voice was gentle. Admiral, we're not enemies. We're not victims. We're not conquerors. We're survivors. And we know that the only way to survive is to help others survive. Vex was quiet for a long moment. You want to help us? I want to offer you a choice. You can continue fighting us and we'll continue winning. Or you can accept that the galaxy has changed, that we're part of it now, and that we're willing to share. Share what? A future, Vance smiled. One where you don't have to conquer to survive, one where you don't have to be afraid. Vex felt something he'd never felt before, hope, and in return, you tell us everything. Your technology, your history, your biology, everything you know about the galaxy. Vance leaned forward. We're not going to conquer you, Admiral. We're going to learn from you, and we're going to teach you what we've learned. Teach us what? Vance's smile widened. How to survive. The broadcast went out across every Dominion world, every client species, every corner of the galaxy that could receive a signal. Helena Vance stood before the camera, her voice steady, her eyes clear. My name is Helena Vance. I represent the human species, and I have a message for every species that has ever been conquered by the Dominion. Behind her, images flashed across the screen. History, human history. You see these images, they're from our past. They're the wars we fought, the atrocities we committed, the suffering we endured. We've done terrible things to each other. We've killed millions of our own species. We've destroyed our own environment. We've been our own worst enemy. The images shifted. A human city gleaming in the sun, children playing, scientists working, families laughing. And yet we survived. We learned. We grew. We became better. Not because we were stronger, not because we were smarter, but because we refused to give up. She looked directly at the camera. To the species of the galaxy, we are not conquerors. We're not saviors. We're not victims. We're survivors. And we know that survival is not something you can achieve on your own. The broadcast cut to images of Dominion client species. The Thrax, the Vril, the Quillian, all of them suffering under Dominion rule, all of them afraid. You don't have to be afraid anymore. You don't have to serve masters who don't care about you. You don't have to fight wars that aren't yours. She smiled. You have a choice. You can continue serving the Dominion, or you can join us. The screen flickered. Images of human-Dominion cooperation. Humans and Thrax working together. Humans and Vril studying together. Humans and Quillian building together. Humans are not your enemies. We're not your saviors. We're your partners. We're the species that refuse to kneel, and will help you refuse too. Across the galaxy, client species watched, and across the galaxy something changed. The rebellion began quietly. A Vril mechanic refusing to repair a Dominion ship. A Quillian scientist destroying research data. A Thrax warrior putting down his weapon. Then it grew. Ships refusing to obey orders. Planets refusing to send supplies. Soldiers refusing to fight. Vex watched it all from his command post, his primary eye wet with something he hadn't felt in centuries. Gratitude. The Galactic Dominion fell not with a bang, but with a whisper. One by one, the client species withdrew their support. One by one, the conquered worlds declared their independence. One by one, the soldiers laid down their weapons. Vex watched the collapse from the Dominion's will, which was no longer a flagship but a museum, a reminder of what the galaxy had been, a promise of what it could become. "You look like you're mourning," Helena Vance said, appearing at his side. "I am mourning," Vex replied. "I'm mourning the empire I was born to serve." "You're also celebrating. I can see it in your eyes." Vex's mandibles clicked softly. "You see too much." "No," Vance smiled. "I see what I need to see. I see a species that's learning to survive. I see a species that's learning to hope." Vex was quiet for a moment. "What happens now?" "What always happens. Life continues. The galaxy spins. Species adapt." Vance looked at the stars beyond the viewport. "We're all survivors, Admiral. We all do what we need to do to keep going." "And the Dominion?" "Done, finished. The Empire is gone." Vex felt the words settle around him like a blanket. "What do we do now, those of us who served?" Vance turned to him. "Now you help us build something new, something that doesn't depend on fear, something that doesn't need to conquer to survive." "And what will that be?" Vance smiled. "We'll figure it out. We're good at figuring things out. It's what we do." Vex looked at the stars, at the galaxy that was no longer his, at the future that was suddenly full of possibility. "You know," Vance said, "when you first arrived, we laughed at you. We couldn't help it. The idea that anyone could demand our submission. It was so absurd, so impossible. We laughed because we knew you had no idea what you were dealing with." "And what were you dealing with?" "Themselves." Vance's voice was soft. "We're the scariest thing we've ever met. And when you showed up, we realized something. We realized that all the darkness we've carried, all the violence we've done to each other, all the terrible things we've survived, it all led to this. To the moment when we could save the galaxy by being exactly who we are." Vex turned to her. "And who are you?" Vance smiled. "We're the ones who won't stop fighting. We're the ones who refuse to kneel. We're the ones who believe that survival is not enough. We have to be better. We have to help others survive too." She extended her hand. "That's the only thing that makes survival worth it, Admiral. That's the only thing that makes the struggle mean anything. Not just surviving, but helping others survive." Vex looked at her hand, at the species that had taught him something he'd never learned in 1,000 years of conquest. He took her hand. "Where do we begin?" Vance's smile widened. "We begin by telling everyone we know, and then we don't stop until every species in the galaxy knows that they don't have to be afraid." Vex's mandibles clicked. "And if they don't believe us?" Vance laughed. "Then we show them. We show them what happens when a species refuses to kneel. We show them what happens when a species chooses hope." She looked at the stars. "We show them what it means to be human." End of story.